Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, it's time to talk about the champs, the NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. That's right. I'm getting into their roster as I've done with every team. Well, I'm trying to do with every team, and I think I'll get to it. So let's do Bucks. All right, first guy, of course, Giannis, Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. What's there to say? He's one of the best players in all of basketball, two-time MVP, NBA champion is of course, and to be honest with you, Finals MVP personified. He had one of the best Finals performances ever, in my opinion. One of the best comebacks from injury, freak injury type of recovery thing. I've never seen nobody recover from an injury like that in my life. Never. If that were to happen to me, my leg would have snapped. I'd have been out for 2 years. It happened to him. His leg bent backwards, remained intact. He went out there and put up even bigger numbers. Even bigger numbers. It took him about 2 games to recover. One of the most astonishing things I've ever seen in my life. I looked at that injury and said he was going to be out for the year. Came back and won the Finals MVP after the injury. So, as far as I'm concerned, Giannis Antetokounmpo is literally the Greek Freak. He's a freak of nature. He's unstoppable. I've always been one to say that he's not the greatest player of basketball, as in the skills of basketball, but his athleticism, his athleticism, his tenacity, his length, his ability to affect things on the basketball floor from a cerebral perspective in terms of creating circumstances to help others, passing the ball. So what I'm trying to say, he's fantastic at that. He's always been good at that. They did a fantastic job developing him in Milwaukee, obviously. From the time they drafted him, they took their time and just made sure that they poured all of their resources into developing this player, and he has turned into everything they thought he would be. Just a true success story of an NBA franchise's development of a basketball player, and of course a testament to the hard work of the player, most definitely. Never take none away from Giannis. His hard work, his character. He surrounds himself with his brothers. His family stays close. They came from humble beginnings. They still humble now. They're millionaires, but they still exude an energy through the camera that shows that they appreciate their lives. They appreciate the circumstances that they're in, and they don't take it for granted. That's the image that they all give off to me. So I received that, and I really like seeing Giannis at the top of the NBA totem pole. Lucky NBA, man. They got some good guys at the top. Thinking about guys like LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo. These are high character superstars, man. Luka Doncic, he just opened up a basketball court down in his country. These are good guys that are running the league right now. And Giannis is the cream of the crop in my opinion right now. So give him his props for not only for what he's able to accomplish on the court, but also for what he's able to display off the court in good character. So that's what I want to say about Giannis. More so about the character of the guy. He just comes off as a really solid dude. You all know how good of a basketball player he is. Next up, another fantastic guy, Jrue Holliday. Jrue Holliday is not only a fantastic guy, of course, but a fantastic basketball player on both sides of the floor. One of the best two-way players, in my opinion, out there. He simply is as good as advertised. He went from being kind of an underrated guy who everybody knew was the man to a guy that we all know is the man. I personally believe he outdueled Chris Paul in the NBA Finals. I know that is nuanced, but he won that matchup on both sides of the floor. He had some success against Devin Booker guarding him, but Devin was able to get his numbers off. But overall, Jrue Holliday helped win that NBA championship. That's what you're going to say. Jrue Holliday was a very big part of a championship caliber, championship winning team, and that's the ultimate testament to his career. I remember when he had to take some time off to take care of his lady, his wife, who was going through some serious health complications and a pregnancy at the same time. The strength that she showed, the dedication that he displayed in accompanying her throughout that wonderful miracle that she was able to pull off in surviving that and giving life. Just a tremendous situation, and you got to give appreciation to that as well. So, shout out to Jrue Holliday for just being a real man. You know what I mean? First and foremost, and then from there, doing great stuff on the basketball court that ultimately paid off in winning a championship with his team. So, as you know, Jrue Holliday came from New Orleans. He played there for a good portion of his career. Was initially traded from Philadelphia, where he was an all-star early on. I think a lot of people forget he was an all-star in the Eastern Conference with the Philadelphia 76ers very early in his career. Philly gave up on him because Philly's Philly, and they do stupid stuff, honestly. And he's now with New Orleans, and well, he was with New Orleans for a while, made a career out of it, then obviously was moved on to Milwaukee, where he is now winning the championship. So that's Jrue Holiday in a nutshell. Just a fantastic two-way player and all-around guy. All right, Chris Middleton, fantastic player. I have learned to appreciate Chris Middleton in ways that I didn't before. My perception of Chris Middleton going into these playoffs and any time previous was just a guy who had pure shot. A really, really fantastic pure shooter, but a very inconsistent star in this league. One of the more inconsistent stars in basketball. He has a pure shot and all these different things, but going into the playoffs, I just couldn't seem to see him either staying healthy for long enough to make a real impact, or just, sometimes here and there he would just not give me the type of production I would expect to see from a statistical standpoint. Then I was able to witness for myself exactly what it is that he brings to the table. When I finally got a chance to actually see the Milwaukee Bucks play in playoff basketball, I understood that his role was inconsistent because of how they were using Giannis, to be completely honest about it. And I sounded off about it at the beginning of the playoffs. I was killing the Bucks. I was killing Budenholzer. You'll go back and watch some of the videos, you'll understand I was killing them. I hated those guys. I hated everything about their team and how they played. But I learned to respect them. Once I started actually watching them more and seeing them do it out the playoffs, what came to mind was, this is not a team that doesn't know what it's doing. This is not a coach that just uses all times of weird tactics at random without any rhyme or reason, and because of it, the team struggles more so than they should. No, that's not what was going on. What was going on was Coach Budenholzer is an unorthodox coach who tends to throw monkey wrenches at other coaches because he knows other coaches are scheming against him in a certain way. So rather than to remain consistent and predictable, he loves to do stuff that you just don't see coming to throw you off your game. So once I realized that's what he does, and the players and their production is a reflection of how he strategizes, then I stopped judging Chris Middleton the same way. When I surmised that's what was going on, then I started to respect Budenholzer, I started to respect their team, and I started to view them properly. And now I'm aware. I'm very aware of this team and how they do their thing. So at this point, I look at Chris Middleton and I say some totally different stuff. Now I'm on the role where I say Chris Middleton is one of the best pure scorers in basketball. Chris Middleton has greatness in his game, not just goodness and all-star, but greatness available at his or in his arsenal that he can tap into, and he showed us that. This dude is lethal. He is one of the best mechanical shooters on the planet Earth, and is a very underrated scorer. And it's because of the system he's been in. It's because he's kind of played on some small market teams his entire career. It's only been with Detroit and Milwaukee. So if you didn't really follow those two teams, you only marginally understand what he brings to the table. Couple that with the superstardom of Giannis Antetokounmpo, which kind of leaves him in the shadows quite a bit. But he made a name for himself. I'm of the firm belief that he is the best basketball player on this team. I do still think that, because I don't look at Giannis as somebody that I want to go to his skills challenge, skills camp or nothing like that. I just look at him as somebody who can do things that other people can't do. And because of it, he's maximized his potential in this league thus far, but I don't think that he's gotten all the way to mastered the art of basketball status, like a lot of other basketball players may or may not have gotten to. But in the event of him not mastering basketball, he still managed to dominate basketball. And that is a testament to how amazing of an athlete he is. So he's getting better as a basketball player. He works hard at being a good basketball player. He has become a good basketball player. But Giannis is not a great basketball player. I think Middleton is on his way to becoming a great basketball player. But he's going to have to become more consistent within the role that he's given. And he's going to have to pile on some more championships before he gets that type of recognition. But he has one now. So I'm looking at Chris Middleton totally differently. I think all three of these guys are going to be Hall of Famers after what we just saw. I don't think they've earned their way into there yet. Of course, Giannis can retire today, he's in there. But those other two, they're going to have to continue to build. But I think they're well on the path to where if they keep this up for the rest of their careers, they make the Hall, man. They make the Hall. So I really think that about all three of those guys. So that's Chris Middleton. In a nutshell, one of the best pure shooters in the game. Very long arms, very good defender as well. He's a good defender because of those arms, because of his ability to shoot. He makes things difficult on defenders who then have to deal with him on the other end. It's just a lot. So I have a lot of respect for Chris Middleton now, and I'm happy to be on the other side of this thing. I'm happy to be aware. So let's keep it going. And that's really what it's about with Milwaukee, by the way. Those names that I just mentioned, that's the bread and butter. The rest of these names are guys that are helpful, but most of them are expendable. Most, not all. Because the next name I don't think is expendable at all. Bobby Portis. I look at Bobby Portis and I say, no, they'd be wise to keep him too. And they did. And he found a home in Milwaukee. He's like a folk hero in Milwaukee at this point. He had an amazing playoffs for them, amazing season. And he ran it back. He did re-sign with them, took a pay cut if I'm not mistaken. I did report on all that in the previous videos. I just didn't keep that stuff in my head right now. But he did re-sign for a certain amount. He's going to be staying with them. And now I think he's found a real home in this league. I remember when Bobby Portis had his issue where he kind of got into it with another player, broke his jaw. And then it was a funny kind of situation because everybody took Bobby's side. The players took Bobby's side. The fans took Bobby's side. Meritic was the guy who got punched in the face. Everybody in the locker room pretty much said Meritic asked for it. And I don't think I've ever seen a situation like that before where the guy who does the punching gets all the support. That's the only time I've ever seen that, but that's exactly what happened. Meritic ain't in the league right now, and Bobby Portis just came off a championship. There you go. So it is what it is. I don't remember Bobby P for that, but he certainly he added his name to that, and it will be mentioned forever. But nevertheless, what he just did will also be mentioned forever. He came to Milwaukee with a championship. So you got to mention that as well. Very pure scoring power forward, underrated, pure scorer. Somebody who can really come in and score 25, 30 points at will, seemingly. I've seen him do it his whole career. He just doesn't do it very consistently because he's not asked to. So I like Bobby P. I would welcome him on any team I got going on. And Milwaukee's happy to have him. That's for damn sure. All right, next guy. Another guy that I'm very happy to know about. Somebody who was on my team for a good split second. Was very, very happy with Brook Lopez, man. This guy can shoot the ball. Not the greatest rebounder. If you followed me, you know I always mention Brook Lopez as being one of the worst centers rebounding the ball ever. But that doesn't take away from his all-star status in this league because he's such a lethal post scorer and three-point shooter. He turned himself into a three-point shooter after being a guy who only scored like three-point shots his whole career. Then woke up one summer morning and just decided he wanted to turn into Reggie Miller, practice at it, and then went out there and actually did it. I think he went from like shooting 3 his whole career to then shooting 100 and something, making 100 and something in a season. I've never heard or seen of anything like that in any form of basketball whatsoever. So that was a complete and utter anomaly. And mind you, he managed to do this after signing a bunch of contracts that made him a very wealthy man. This is somebody who worked on his game, a weakness in his game, after getting lots and lots of money. Just gonna let that sit in, Ben Simmons. Gonna let that sit in. Anyway, so that's what I have to say about Brook Lopez. That will always be a testament to just the type of player that he is. Somebody that actually cares. Because I'm telling you, Brooklyn, New Jersey, they paid him all the money he'll ever need. Homeboy is straight. His family's straight, and their kid's going to be straight. And that's a good thing because he's earned that money. But what he also did is earn my respect because he went out there and worked hard at perfecting his three-point shot when he realized that centers around the league who couldn't shoot were starting to get phased out. And being that he didn't rebound very well, he had better incorporate that into his game. It was smart, and it was a miracle because I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. So Brook Lopez, man, yeah, NBA champion. LA native, California native, definitely a fan of him and his bro. And was happy to see him play for the Lakers for a split second, and even more happy to see him win a championship. So that's what I got there. Moving on, Jeff Teague. Congratulations, Jeff Teague. He played a lot of years in Atlanta. Finally won a championship with Milwaukee later on in his career. I don't know what kind of role he's going to have this year, but he got a ring, and that's the most important thing. So he's back with the champs. Dante DiVincenzo did not have a role in the playoffs. I think he was hurt, and that's kind of sad because that's a big-time role player for that team who's really good, who was almost traded to Sacramento in a botched trade for Bogdan Bogdanovic. That trade, of course, again, botched. He ends up staying with Milwaukee, has a good solid midway through the season type of time, and then got hurt. And we just didn't see him anymore. And then they went on to win a championship. So you'll always remember that he just was not a part of that, even though he was on the team. But that ring is real shiny, and I'm sure he's happy to have it. And hopefully, he can get back out there and show what it is he can do. I don't hate this spot for him, especially this season. They don't look particularly deep at the guard position this year. So I think there will be a bigger role for Dante than he's seen in previous seasons, which is really cool. So we'll see what happens with Dante DiVincenzo. I'm a believer that he has some really solid defensive ability, particularly what I've seen from him. So, yeah, that's what I got. Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen was a guy I thought was in like two different places. He's actually here. I made a video on the Memphis Grizzlies, and I thought he might be playing there, but then I told everybody he might be in Utah. In neither one of those places. He's in Milwaukee. So if you see the Utah video, or the Memphis Grizzlies video, rather, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Grayson Allen is, in fact, here in Milwaukee. So, Grayson Allen's a good player, man. He can shoot the ball, definitely tenacious on the defensive end. Somebody who can really go after it. Aggressive player, fearless player, nasty. And I say nasty with an emphasis on nasty. Although he's shaken off the moniker of being a dirty player, but in college, he was infamous. It was horrible, actually. But he shook all that off. I'd imagine he went somewhere and got his head right, because that's what I was thinking was needed, to be completely honest with you. I just thought Homeboy had this Dominican Sue kind of thing where he just like inflicting pain on people a little more than necessary for the sport. And I really do believe that's a mental thing. I think there's some stuff to be worked out there, and I think he has. I haven't seen no signs of that stuff in the NBA. All I'm doing is assuming, but I do see that Grayson Allen has kind of shook that off, and most people have forgotten about that. Sorry to bring it up, but it is what it is, man. I'm an old guy, so I remember everything, except for the stuff I need to remember, because I'm an old guy. But when it comes to stuff like that, I don't forget, but I also haven't forgotten how aggressive of a player he was in college, too. He was a good player there. He was a player who was expected to go in the first round. I think he did end up going in the first round. And he kind of landed in if I'm not mistaken, he landed, of course, in Memphis, and then ended up in Utah, and I think he ended up here. I think that's how I got that messed up. He's been in all three of those places. And he's looking for a spot to play, but I think this is a player, he's still very young. He's only in his third year, I think. Fourth year, something like that. So at this point, I'd imagine that the role is going to be there for him to kind of play a little too this year. Just like Dante DiVincenzo, he's going to be in that rotation. So he's going to battle that out. They got another guy here that I'm looking at, Pat Connaughton, who's also going to be battling that out. Dude had a fantastic NBA Finals. Pat Connaughton had a fantastic NBA Finals. He rebounded the ball, man. You want to talk about Pat Connaughton and what stands out about him in these playoffs? Homie rebounds, for real. One thing I know about Pat Connaughton is that he's a baseball player. He's a guy who could very easily be in the MLB, and I think he'd probably be even more successful in baseball. He's really good at that. But he chose basketball, and he just won a championship, so I said that was a damn good decision. Pat Connaughton made his presence known in those playoffs, in those finals too, so that's even more rewarding. He was the guy who probably benefited the most off of Dante not being available. But I tell you, he did just that. He took advantage and made his presence known. I can't say it enough. Just simply rebounding the ball. The reason why that's important is because he's a shorter guy. He's not, I'm not saying he's my height, but he's not no 7-footer or no 6'10" guy. So for him to be rebounding the ball from the guard position, that's extremely, extremely needed for their team at the time. Being that they were dealing with a lot with that Phoenix Suns team, and his extra oomph, his production made them absolutely impossible to beat. If he doesn't play as well as he did, I don't know that they win the same way that they do. He was actually that much of a factor, in my opinion. I don't know that series goes that way if he doesn't do every single thing that he did. So, yeah, Pat Connaughton, big time stuff. Next guy we're talking about is George Hill. George Hill is just unlike the rest of these guys. He's kind of had some bad luck. George Hill had some bad luck. George Hill went from San Antonio to Indiana, traded for Kawhi. And if I'm not mistaken, he ended up a bunch of places, then ended up in Cleveland. Missed the infamous free throw that cost Bron a ring. Then he ends up in Milwaukee. They didn't do nothing with Milwaukee because it was, the Bledsoe years. That wasn't very good. They got rid of Bledsoe. He leaves there. Goes to Philadelphia. They bring in Drew Holliday. Win a championship. Philadelphia does nothing. He leaves Philadelphia and comes back here to Milwaukee. And this is where we are right now. So, just bad luck. Just avoiding championships at all costs. That's what Homeboy's doing. But he's now back with the Milwaukee Bucks. And he's going to provide some backup point guard support for their team. And Jeff Teague's there. Drew Holiday's there. George Hill's in that rotation as well. So, we'll see what happens as far as the minutes that he gets. I think, third string point guard, second string point guard is pretty much what we're looking at for George Hill this year. We know he's serviceable. We know what he can do. He's a guy who's a vet in this league, point guard, shooting guard combination. Score first most of the time, but does intangible things that help a basketball team. Just like I said, though, he's just had some really bad luck. That's all it is. So, moving on. Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood is a guy who can shoot the ball, man. Rodney Hood I've seen good Rodney Hood and I've seen bad Rodney Hood. But as of late, I've seen good Rodney Hood. I think he had a pretty solid tenure with Portland. Had some really good year in Utah originally when he was drafted. He was a good player for them. So I've seen good Rodney Hood. He was also part of that Cleveland Cavaliers team that George Hill was on with LeBron James when they didn't win. So, you know what I mean? Rodney Hood is a guy who's looking for an opportunity to win a championship. He's been close, but he's had no cigar. He's played in the finals with LeBron, but hasn't quite gotten it yet. So this is an opportunity. He's hoping it can get him to that situation. I don't see Milwaukee necessarily getting there this year, but he's on a good team, so he offers opportunities. And that's ultimately what it's about for a guy at this stage in his career who's coming into vet status, I think. Semi Ojeleye. I don't know a lot about Semi Ojeleye. And part of that's because I don't follow the Boston Celtics, and he's been there his entire career. But the other part of that is because they didn't play him a whole lot. And when I talk about the Boston Celtics and I think about how they've only marginally developed players properly, he is why the word marginally is involved, because they did not develop him properly, in my opinion. They didn't develop him in a way that gave him enough minutes to show that he could either not do or can do certain things. So I have no idea what he can do. Just didn't play a lot. But now he is going to be with this team here in Milwaukee, providing some backup power forward, third string power forward. Hopefully he can develop into somebody that can really help this team. Looking at this roster in a nutshell, they could use some power forward help after Bobby Portis. It gets a little thin for him. So Semi Ojeleye can step in and be that guy and kind of show Milwaukee why Boston drafted him and kept him. I think it'll be great for their team. And, of course, there's another name on here that I'm familiar with by the name of Thanasis Antetokounmpo. Do you need to be told who this is? This is Giannis's bro. His big bro, to be exact. Someone who also played a little bit in these finals and got his taste of what it feels like to play in the NBA finals and playoffs and get a little bit of that success going. And rounded out the trio of Antetokounmpo brothers getting championships. Because, of course, we know the little bro got a championship with the Lakers back in 2020. Thanasis and Giannis got it in 2021, and that rounds out the family championship trio. So, the rest of the roster, to be honest with you, is a bunch of guys that I'm not familiar with, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, but I'll name them as best I can. Some of these names are not going to be done correctly. We got Alex Topane, we got Elijah Bryant, we got Sam Merrill, Jordan Nwora, Giorgio Kalartzakis, as you can see, I'm not getting that name right. I'm very sorry. And Sandros Manudrelkalovshev. So needless to say, I've butchered that name. I hope you all laughed. I mean no disrespect. Thank you all for watching my Milwaukee Bucks video. There's not a whole lot to say about this team. They just came off the NBA championship. I do not think they will be returning back to the NBA championship. But I think that it doesn't matter because they got what they needed done. You know what I mean? Not every team is going to be able to compete every year. Not every team is going to be able to be at the top of the ranks and get all the best players all the time. So, when a team like Milwaukee wins a championship, you appreciate it, and you're optimistic that they can get back to relevance once again. But if they don't do it, you're not surprised because, quite frankly, this is a superstars league, a big market league, and the NBA tends to make sure that we see more of those teams than see anybody else. Now, how they go about doing that, I don't know. Sometimes things just work out. Sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, we just don't see a whole lot of Milwaukee Bucks, so it was great to see them win a championship in my lifetime. I do not take that for granted. To have seen a Phoenix Suns Milwaukee Bucks championship was cool. Very cool. And I'm a Laker fan, so that's saying a lot. So I like what they did there. I like Deer District. You guys showed y'all backs big time, showed your butts. And really showed up for your team like Toronto did, like Golden State, and all these different teams for these fan bases that show up and show out. Milwaukee made sure that we knew who they were, and they loved their team, and I'm glad they still have their team. And when you're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, what you want to say for sure is that they had a vision for their team. Okay, this is a team that had a vision. When they first drafted an amazing prospect in Giannis Antetokounmpo, they had a vision about how they wanted to build around him, I'd imagine. They had a vision about how they wanted to develop him, and they knew that timeline was very, very long. It got tumultuous. It got to some points where, the Lakers started knocking, the Nets started knocking, all these super teams, super organizations rather started trying to go after their guy, and it became real murky. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to keep him. The Bledsoe situation, all that didn't work out. Some of the players that they drafted weren't doing nothing. And then they were able to pull off getting one of the players on his list of players to bring to him, Drew Holliday. And once they pulled that off, he committed to signing that deal. And once he signed that deal, everything just seemed to fall into place. And I tell you, now that we're here on the other side and they won a championship, I'm not a fan, and I'm breathing a sigh of relief for their front office and their longtime fans who've watched this process. I think about Philadelphia. I think about teams like New York. I think about teams like the Clippers, who have all tried so hard to get to where the Milwaukee Bucks found themselves being this summer. And they just can't get there. And get close. Atlanta, teams just get close, but they can't get there. Milwaukee was able to get there organically. They didn't throw out $300 million at a bunch of guys they didn't draft. They didn't do a bunch of stuff getting big names. They developed the guy that they had. They brought him what he asked for, and he delivered a championship with a fantastic coach at the top of it who used unorthodox means of making the team a champion. It was not pretty. Throughout the seasons, they made some mistakes, using Giannis too much with the ball in his hands, trying to make him do things that he cannot do, shooting the ball. Some of that stuff reared its ugly head in the playoffs this season. They shook it off, played through Middleton more so, and that was a recipe for success for their team. As long as they continue to do that, let Giannis get in where he fits in as the most complimentary superstar of all time. If they feature Middleton 100% of the time, I think they'll be just as good as they want to be every single year. But as long as they find themselves trying to run things through Giannis basketball-wise, possessions fall apart. That truth has not changed. Even though they won the championship, that truth has not changed. As long as they keep doing what got them the championship, Middleton, they'll be fine. I promise you that. And it's shown. Giannis has shown us he does not need to be featured to be ferocious. That's what we've learned. He's not the type of superstar that needs to be number one. He's going to put up number one numbers from the number 2 or the number 3 spot. It's a very unique dynamic that we have to position our minds to understand, because he's the only player in the league like this. The only player I can think of maybe ever like this. But as long as you do not feature him as the guy that you run everything through, you'll win almost every game you're in. So that's what I think. And that's not even what I think. That's what we've been shown. That's what we've been shown. That's what Milwaukee did in the playoffs, and that's why they are hoisting the trophy all summer long. Got a brand new pretty banner to put up in their arena, and I'm very thrilled for their franchise, man. Even though I wasn't a fan throughout the playoffs, I certainly am appreciative of what I saw. So that's what I got, man. NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. My name is BDL44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.